From the House of Songo, this is GayTopix Conversations. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz. Remember, you're always in a mix with GayTopix. I was actually going to name this segment and all these videographies GayTopix Conversations. But since it's just me and the camera, there's really no conversation to be had. But there is a conversation to be told. So, those conversations are my confessions. My confessions are true life events based off of my experience in my lifetime. These stories are not fabricated or not fictional. They are actual, true life, real events that transpired in my life. And I'm sharing them with you so you understand the pain and struggle that I have lived with all of my life as a gay man. As a gay man, and anyone in the LGBTQ community, we all have a story. This is my story. Again, these are real life, true events. All rights reserved. Welcome to GayTopix Confessions. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, and these are my stories. As I started to do this, I began to realize that my life and childhood and upbringing are no similar than those who are psychopathic, sociopathic, and most turn out to be criminals or murderers or serial killers. I don't have a vindictive personality. I don't have any bad blood in me. I am not that type of person to even want to consider harming someone. So, it's hard to comprehend, but still, it's amazing that I have not turned into a sociopath or psychopath or someone vile and evil like my mother and all those who I've encountered in my lifetime. Those people are sociopaths, and those people need help mentally, and those people have a mental instability. I don't have a mental instability or mental illness. I just want to be heard. And the fact that I'm not heard, it just causes more damage to me emotionally and physically. And it is now 2:30 in the morning, and it's yet another night that I have not slept. I'm watching I Love Lucy. It's my favorite show. I can watch it all day, every day. And sometimes her voice puts me to sleep, and I was hoping that she can do that. Lucille Ball can do that, and unfortunately I find myself just staring at the ceiling, so I thought I'll make a video. Do I appear to be evil? Do I look like a serial killer? Do I look like I'm racist? Do I look like I'm going to hurt anyone? I couldn't even harm a fly. I remember spraying roach spray when I lived in the Bronx and feeling bad for killing the roaches, but again, there were so many of them. I remember I filed a complaint with 311 and they had to come investigate. When the Department of Buildings investigator looked underneath my kitchen cabinet, where the sink is, he opened it up and saw all these dead carcasses of roaches. And he immediately went to vomit because the smell was so overbearing. And immediately my landlord was fined and it helped with another adjournment. But at the same time, these were the conditions that I was living under. Not only was it a horrible place to go outside because of the inner city and ghetto, and people more than likely were subject to harass me and rob me and put me at gunpoint to steal from me, and it was a horrible place to live, and I didn't want to go outside. And the common theme of all these stories is that I'm stuck inside a room, and the room is my safe space, and I feel that way today. I felt that way as a child. I felt that way as a teenager. I felt that way my entire adult life. No one has ever come to my house. Even in the Bronx, no one has come to my house. No one has visited me when I lived in Jersey City. No one visited me when I was in a shelter. No one asked me to come for Thanksgiving dinner or a barbecue or Memorial Day weekend or a vacation or a getaway. I don't have those things in my life. I never get any birthday presents or Christmas presents. I usually end up having to buy my own, but after a while I stopped celebrating those holidays and birthdays and moments in my life that needed celebration, and yet what is the point of celebrating if there's no one here to celebrate with you? It's kind of like going to a movie. I've never been to a movie by myself. Because when you go to a movie, you talk through the movie, you try to understand the plot and the dialogue and what's going on, and after the movie you have your opinion about the movie, and you can't do that by yourself. You need somebody there with you. Like looking at a piece of art hanging in the museum. You don't go to a museum by yourself. You go there with someone to actually debate on what it is that you see, because each portrait and each painting or each piece of art is viewed differently through everyone's eyes. I may see something different from what somebody else sees. And that's the joys about art, is that, we can all perceive the portrait as something different. I don't know. I'm just here and I can't sleep, and I'm having suicidal ideation. I don't have a purpose anymore. I don't want to live alone, because for the first time in my adult life, I'm actually alone, and it's more traumatizing than when Bill Clinton, my dog, passed away in January, because he was able to keep those memories hidden and those incidences that happened to me hidden, and I was so focused on his well-being that it never occurred to me, or I never thought about it. I didn't think about being in a relationship. I didn't care about having friends, because the only friend that mattered to me was my dog. And it's I'm a Libra. Libras are everyone's best friend, and I don't understand why it is that I don't have any friends or associates. I talk to random people, but that's when I had a dog, and those people didn't know me either. They just knew my dog, and no one actually wanted me to get to know me. There's several groups of people who get together on the weekends with their dogs, and they have like play dates, and sometimes they foster when another person wants to go on vacation, and they're there for each other, and like real friends and neighbors do. And yet I remember asking one of the people if I can join the group, seeing that everyone knew Bill Clinton. So I was like, do you mind if I actually sit down with you on a Sunday, and hang out with you guys? And I was told no, because I don't live in that building. And there was another one where there's a group that meets every Thursday for Italian Greyhounds. Bill Clinton was a half Italian Greyhound, and Terrier mix. And I was still told no. People's actions made me who I am. They shaped me to who I've become. They hurt me tremendously without caring or having a sense of humility toward me of what they were doing, because respect is earned when it's given. Now I'm sure, and I'm more than confident, if I treated someone the same way they treated me, I would probably be called a racist. I would probably get jumped. I would probably get arrested. I would probably get, attacked and belittled and discriminated against. But then now when I think about it, it's no different than what it is now. I mean, nobody knows me. Nobody knows me, and it's very painful, because I'm such a lovable guy. I'm very endearing, very supportive, and very sincere, and like I remember I was talking to this dude once, and he was telling me that he liked Justin Timberlake. It was his birthday, and I went searching and searching and searching to try to find, because they had the NSYNC dolls. I would find all the other band members, but I wouldn't find Justin Timberlake. And so I would search, and I searched for a couple weeks before I found that Justin Timberlake doll. And I gave it to him for his birthday, and he was so moved by that, because I had put thought into the present. That's how caring of a person and an individual I am. I put thought into the things that I do, where they have meaning, where they would last. I remember a girl from high school that it was her birthday, and she liked the House of Darion, because before it was Beyonce's brand now, Ivy Park, it was the House of Darion, and she had handbags, and it was this beautiful red handbag, and I bought it for her birthday, and she used that bag for like 5 years, and it was her favorite bag. But then when my birthday came around, no one ever really recognized it, or it was forgotten, and I was left alone in my room, you know, as I always am. I am in my room right now. I don't know why this is happening. It's it's very traumatizing, and trauma to me is not a mental illness. It's a grieving process that unfortunately we all face in our lifetime, and it's in a phase. It comes and goes in phases. Depression comes and goes in phases, and you can be depressed and not have a mental imbalance or a mental illness. We just have to, we each mourn and grieve in our own way, in our own time. I remember watching a show on ID channel where um, this woman killed her husband, and well, was suspected of killing her husband, and she went out and got breast implants and did some plastic surgery and went shopping, you know, and the police thought that was weird, and a red flag was raised because they couldn't understand why someone who lost their husband was out shopping and getting breast implants. You know, forensically she was cleared and DNA excluded her, but that's the way she mourned and that's the way she grieved. We all grieve differently, but again, that doesn't mean we have mental illnesses. And I'm tired of being stigmatized and labeled as if I have some type of mental illness. Again, all the shit that I've been through as a child and gone through growing up as a teenager, and all the abuse and torture and neglect and starvation that I have dealt with, I should be a Jeffrey Dahmer or, you know, some type of serial killer, you know, ravaging the city, you know, killing people, but I don't have that in me to do that. I don't have any negative feelings, you know. Even though I have attempted suicide before, I don't feel that way now. I didn't feel that way then, but I attempted suicide to get rid of Papi Songo because nobody wanted Papi Songo and nobody was willing to work with Papi Songo, and I was blacklisted in the industry, and you know, people were just sending me hate mail after hate mail after hate mail, and it got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. And what was the point of being Papi Songo if all I was going to do was be abused and neglected and belittled and forgotten and ignored and mistreated, you know? And on December 18th, 2018, I attempted suicide because I couldn't take it anymore. Unfortunately, it didn't work, and I'm still here, and I'm glad it didn't work because it taught me a very valuable lesson. I shouldn't have to think about what people think of me. I am my own person. You may prevent me from doing work and furthering my career, but you can't tell me how I am as a person or how I think as a person, or tell me that what I'm doing is wrong when you have skeletons in your closet and you have sinned and you have done several things that were not appropriate, you know. And like everyone else in Hollywood, I did what I had to do, and I took pills and I OD'd, and I was out for about 3 days, and I woke up on the bathroom floor with my dog licking my blood because I busted my head open. And at that moment, I knew that what I did was wrong because I had put my dog through something. I can only imagine what he was going through, you know, seeing me there, and especially not moving, most of the blood was licked up, but he was still licking my head, and the fact that I wasn't moving, it was probably made him go crazy, and I felt bad because that's my son, and it was kind of selfish of me to even want to consider attempting suicide, so it was a very valuable lesson. Unfortunately, I mean, I find it also a blessing that I was able to be in quarantine with my dog as he died. I was slowly watching him die, and it was very painful. And I'm creating a movie, and it's taking me some time because every time I want to edit or put in a movie or do a picture or work on it, I'm reminded of the loss of my best friend, my son, for over 2 decades. And I can't work on it the way I want to because it's too painful. So I'm doing these videographies, and I'm hoping that people can relate. I don't even know if people are watching or even will find these videos. I'm just doing them because I have nothing else to do, and I don't have nobody to talk to, and I need my voice to be heard. Because I'm tired of going to crisis hotlines and seeing over 200 plus therapists and counselors and social workers and so forth and so on, and nothing really changing. Like, I remember I did a psycho evaluation. Excuse me. I remember I did a psycho evaluation when I lived in the Bronx, and I told you I didn't pay rent because I didn't want to live there. And they specifically did the math, but when they did the math for my portion of the rent and what I was supposed to pay, it didn't equal out to what my monthly income was. So I was always going to be in arrears. There was no way possible I could afford that apartment. I don't even know why I was put there when I chose another apartment. And the psycho evaluation, the psychologist was in favor of the city. So when I was denied the one-shot deal to help pay the rent, one-shot deal, everyone in New York City has the opportunity to get a one-shot deal where they pay the back rent and stuff like that. I was denied, and I did a fair hearing, and I had to do a psycho evaluation, and when they did the psycho evaluation for the fair hearing, it was, as I read the notes, because I asked for a copy, and I read the notes, and it was clearly in favor of the city. It was not in favor of the tenant, myself. And if someone would actually read between the lines of what the doctor wrote, you can actually see my perspective and how hard it was to survive, and doing porn was very helpful to me because most people were like, why would you get into porn? I got into porn because I didn't have sex for 9.5 years while in the Army. So I came home and I wanted to have sex, and I thought, why not get paid for it? And I was traveling across the world, just like I did in the military, but getting paid for something that I like doing. And most people frown upon it because I'm exposing myself to, the world. But who is really going to see it? Oh, a coworker is going to watch it and you may get fired or this and that. Then I have a question for you. So if my boss or coworker saw me in the porno, I'm going to question why they were actually watching gay porn. you know, Secondly, I was traveling across the world. I went to Barcelona, I went to London, I went to Ibiza, I went to Palm Springs, I went to Atlanta, I went to Miami, I went to San Francisco, I went to Las Vegas. I went to all these places and filming movies and getting paid. And I would get paid so much money that I would, add it to my rent. So I wouldn't have to pay rent for 6, 7, 8 months. There was one time I didn't pay rent for a whole year, because I was using that money to survive, and the money that I was being provided by the city was not enough for me to survive on my own, like eat and travel and, buy necessities and things of that nature, or even buy a couch, or a pair of sneakers. It's one of the good things I liked about having a dog was when I would walk around the neighborhood, I would see clothes and stuff like that and pieces of furniture, and I would pick them up and put them in my house. And my whole house is essentially furnished from things that I found on the street. And the sneakers that I wear on my feet were found on the street, and the coat that I wear, I got from, the coat drive in Burlington Coat Factory, and it was a used coat, but I've had it for a while, and it's very warm. People don't understand what it is that I've gone through, and I'm trying to explain it, and I can't even understand why it is that I went through all this, and it's pretty pathetic, and it's pretty sad how cruel people can be. You think kids are cruel? Adults are even crueler. And adults have power and physical force, i.e. me being jumped or robbed by gunpoint twice. And then people not having a sense of humanity by recognizing the fact that I sacrificed my life to protect you as a citizen from terrorism in a war that I fought in that is now ended. Can you believe that? The war that I very fought in is now ended. It's the same thing with Bill Clinton. The war that I adopted him in is now over. That shows you how long I've had this dog, and no one seems to comprehend that, and I'm constantly having to beg and get people to understand, and people don't understand. Do I sound confusing to you? Or am I not making any sense? Am I not more clear in what I'm saying? I don't understand. There is no such thing as no. There's always an alternative to something. So the fact that you deny me or you don't understand, perhaps maybe you need a better education, or perhaps you need to be in a different field, because if you're not understanding where I'm coming from, then you don't need to be in that position. And I say position, I mean caseworker or social worker or a crisis hotline operator, or a psychologist. The crisis hotline operators are like Apple geniuses. When you go to the Apple store, you talk to the genius. They're not really geniuses. They don't really know everything. In fact, when most times you go to the store, You have to give your device to them, and then they go, have somebody else look at it. So they're not actually geniuses. And to me, it's you expect someone who is a genius to know everything, and they really don't. And it's misinformation, misleading, and it's a part of life that I just don't understand, because here I am with an education, and what has the education have done for me? They started garnishing my checks for the student loans, and I'm like, if I actually utilized my education, and my education got me somewhere as far as success wise, I wouldn't, I would pay, but I don't pay it because it was absolutely useless. My bachelor's degree is like a high school diploma. It's useless, and then my education in the military was useless as well. I everything I was taught is not what I actually do for a living. And porn was easy for me because I was able to do it and be so successful at doing it, and be in the community in which I belong, and it's, I don't know why it stopped. I don't know why it stopped. I don't know why people treat me this way. I don't know why I have problems sleeping. These, again, are not mental illnesses or mental instabilities or something wrong with my mental health. Yes, this is a mental health conversation, but it has nothing to do with me being diagnosed, because I've never been diagnosed with anything. I've never taken any medication. Many people have suggested I take medication, but that's only their suggestion, and most of the time, what they were saying was inaccurate, I remember one time at St. Vincent's, I went to a therapist there, a lesbian, and no, it was the Gay and Lesbian Center on 13th Street, and they allow you 3 sessions. I don't know how many it is now, but at the time it was just 3. I was looking for something more long term, but I accepted the 3 sessions, and my first session I met with her. Mind you, I only met with her for 45 minutes. This woman doesn't know me from a can of paint. I don't know anything about her. And she had the audacity to call St. Vincent's Hospital, and they had me detained in a psychiatric ward. I called my aunt, and I was like, Nene, you need to come pick me up because I don't know what they're doing to me. And it was just like you see in all those movies where everybody's dressed in white and talking to themselves, or standing in the corner, or picking at their skin, and zombified, and it was just, I didn't belong there. Again, I was being judged inappropriately and wrongfully. Had this woman had a little bit more time with me, or actually understood what I was actually saying, which she couldn't understand because she's a lesbian. You don't understand what a gay man goes through because you're not a gay man. And she placed judgment on me and forced me into a mental institution. Why? I didn't do anything that was harmful to you or to myself or to anyone else. I was shocked by that, and then when I did commit suicide, they did put me in a mental institution, but gratefully, yeah, I will say that it wasn't like what I just explained, where you see people all in white, in a group area, a living room, whatever you want to call it, watching one channel on the TV, but most people weren't really paying attention because they were so zombified or talking to themselves or picking their skins or not speaking at all because they were mutes. You know, I was actually in my own room, and the only person I had interaction with was a nurse, and that nurse and I cried so often, because she understood my pain. But here it is. I tell her my story, and she cries with me and understood, but yet she disappeared after the 90-day treatment program. I, what's the point? What is the point? What is the point of going through all this and explaining my story repeatedly? It's so redundant and tedious to just go back and tell every single detail. That is one of the concerns I had about, because they have this thing now where if you've been abused by someone of the clergy or archdiocese or foster care agency, you can file a lawsuit. There is no statute of limitations because it does take us a long time to actually come forward because no one listens. That's the reason why we don't want to come forward. And then when we do come forward, we're stigmatized, or nothing happens. So going forward or coming forward is really coming forward is really irrelevant because it doesn't help me or it doesn't help the actual situation. And I can feel for most sexual abuse victims because people may complain like, why did it take you 20 years to come forward? But I understand why it would take them 20 years. Because, like I said, no one listens. No one wants to believe what it is that you had to say. Especially the fact that you've waited 20 years to come forward. It just... But what I have a problem with that lawsuit is that it's only with institutions and only with the Catholic Church or foster care or Boy Scouts. It's only with an institution. It's not with an individual. So you see the commercials and they're like, they're explaining to you that the victim's voice was not heard, and as lawyers, we give the victims the voice to be heard and their story to be told, and we have to fight for the victim so this doesn't happen again, and blah, 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 blah. And here it is that I've suffered the same type of abuse, but yet my case is not important enough or valued enough to bring in front of a judge. Because the man who sexually molested me is still walking around free. Moreover, he's a illegal alien. He's not even a citizen of this country. And he essentially got away with murder. The murder of my childhood. The murder of the real Kenny, That's why I like being Poppy Sungo or anyone else, because I was in a drama club and theater and stuff like that, and I was in a couple plays, and I like acting because I was able to be somebody other than Kenny, and I didn't have to focus on all the negative and painful emotional damage that had happened to me because I had to focus on my new character and being that character. So I was always, thrilled and entertained to be in some type of production, theater production. And Poppy Songo was the same way because I'm an actor and I was acting. People don't see it that way though. So let me explain it to you. When you go onto a set in the porn industry, you go onto a set and there are lights everywhere. You know, there's maybe two cameramen, the producer, the assistant, and your co-star. So there's all these people. And I remember being at Vegas in a gay resort filming, and there were actually fans watching while we were filming. So there's so much going on behind the scenes that people who watch porn don't realize it, and when I look at porn now, I look at it differently because I know when something happened or they had to edit or they had to chop it or they had to cut it or they had to retake and, or the position was changed. It's another thing. We don't pick our positions. They pick them for us. And if you notice, all porn scenes start sucking dick, then they eat ass, then they get in a doggy style, then they get on their back, and that's usually the typical platform for a scene, and with certain production companies, there were certain positions that I had to be in, and we had to retake over and over and over again. But I was in that position for so long that I started to cramp, and my legs started to get numb, and it was difficult for me. But it's still my job, and I had to do my job. And sometimes the lights were so bright, we end up sweating profusely and having to be wiped down with a towel, and there's so much going on that a lot of people don't realize. It's very difficult. And I was not what people perceived me to be because they all thought that I was having sex with everybody, and I wasn't. I was only having sex with the people I filmed with because I needed that money shot, and I didn't want to be in breach of contract because I was getting paid good money, and I did that for years until it stopped. And then when it stopped, like I said in an earlier episode, I tried to engage with the public by going on social media like Scruff, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to find people to interact with, and no one ever really wanted to talk to me, and when they did, they said hateful things to me, and there's Reddit groups about me talking all this negative stuff about me and degrading me and defaming me and destroying and undermining everything about me as a person. It was, people just started to avoid me, and I was left alone and alone. I haven't had sex since 2012. Nobody has touched me since 2012. That's a long time. That's a really long time. It didn't matter to me though, because I had my dog Bill Clinton to show me emotion and kiss me and hug me and hold me, and lay next to me and cuddle with me, and he's gone now, and I'm all alone for the first time in my life. It's very hurtful and traumatizing. I don't know what else I can say or do, but I'm going to try to get back to sleep. But we'll see what happens. Again, this is GayTopix Confessions. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz. These are real life events. There's nothing fact or fictional about my stories. They are all true. This is my story, my confessions. Some viewers may find what I'm saying disturbing, so viewer discretion advised. All rights reserved. I'll see you soon. I actually won't see you soon, but hopefully you'll see me soon. Until then, have a blessed night.